Today we're diving deep into one of the most important topics in relationships: how to know if you're dating the wrong person. Look, we all want love, but sometimes we find ourselves stuck in relationships that just aren't right for us. The worst part, we don't even realize it until it's too late. So, in this video, I'm gonna break down 5 major signs that scream you might be with the wrong person. If you notice even one of these signs, you might want to take a step back and reevaluate your relationship. Let's get into it. Number 1. You feel like you can't be yourself. There's something unsettling about realizing that in your own relationship, you don't feel like yourself anymore. It's not something that happens overnight. It's gradual, subtle, almost invisible at first. You might not even recognize it until one day you catch yourself hesitating before speaking, filtering your thoughts, suppressing your emotions, and walking on eggshells without even knowing why. At first, everything felt easy. You were open, unfiltered, and carefree, believing that this person truly liked you for who you were. Maybe they even encouraged you in the beginning, saying how much they loved your sense of humor, your quirks, the way you saw the world. But over time, things started shifting. The way they reacted to certain things you said, the way they subtly corrected you, the times they laughed at you instead of with you, the moments they made you feel like you were just a little too much. You start noticing that they prefer a version of you that's slightly different from who you naturally are. Maybe they want you to be quieter, less opinionated, or more agreeable. Maybe they make fun of your interests or dismiss your feelings as too sensitive or dramatic. Maybe they subtly compare you to others, making you feel like you should be acting a certain way to be more attractive, more likable, more acceptable. And without even realizing it, you start adapting, not in a healthy, growing together kind of way, but in a way that chips away at who you are. You start avoiding certain topics because you don't want to see that look in their eyes, the one that says, "Really? That's what you think?" You tone down your personality because every time you were fully yourself, they made you feel like it was too much. You find yourself agreeing with things you don't really believe in, just to avoid an argument, just to keep the peace, just to make them happy. And then, one day, you catch yourself laughing at something you don't even find funny. You hear yourself saying something you don't actually believe. You look in the mirror and wonder, when did I become this person? The truth is, the right relationship doesn't make you question your own identity. It doesn't make you feel like you have to constantly monitor yourself, making sure you're saying the right things or acting the right way. The right person will never make you feel like you need to shrink yourself just to fit into their life. But when you're with the wrong person, that's exactly what happens. At first, you tell yourself it's normal. Every relationship requires some compromise, right? Nobody's perfect. Maybe you're just being too sensitive. Maybe you're overthinking it. But there's a huge difference between compromise and self-erasure. A healthy relationship involves 2 people growing together, supporting each other, and embracing each other's individuality. It doesn't demand that you change the very core of who you are to make things work. The wrong relationship makes you doubt your own instincts. You start gaslighting yourself, convincing yourself that maybe it's just you. Maybe you're the problem. Maybe if you just tried harder to be what they wanted, things would be better. Maybe if you just adjusted a little more, things would finally feel right. But they don't, and deep down, you know they won't. And the saddest part? The longer you stay in a relationship where you can't be yourself, the harder it becomes to remember who you actually are. You start losing touch with your own desires, your own opinions, your own voice. You become a version of yourself that exists solely for them, tailored to their needs, their preferences, their approval. But what about you? What about your happiness, your freedom, your sense of self? The right person won't make you feel like you have to perform in your own relationship. They won't make you feel like you're constantly being watched, judged, or evaluated. They won't make you feel like you have to filter your personality just to keep their interest. Instead, they'll love you for all the things that make you, you. The way you think, the way you express yourself, the weird little things you're passionate about, the way you laugh at things no one else finds funny, the way you get excited about the things you love. Love isn't about perfection. It's about feeling safe enough to be imperfect. It's about knowing that you can be messy, complicated, opinionated, and completely yourself, and still be loved, respected, and appreciated. But when you're with the wrong person, love feels like a test, a performance, a constant effort to be enough. And that's not real love. That's control. That's insecurity. That's a relationship built on fear rather than connection. So, if you're in a relationship where you feel like you can't be yourself, take a step back. Ask yourself, why do I feel the need to filter myself? What am I afraid of? Do I feel judged, dismissed, or criticized when I'm just being me? Am I constantly trying to please them at the cost of my own happiness? And most importantly, if I have to change who I am just to keep this person, is this relationship even worth it? Because here's the truth. You deserve a love where you can be unapologetically, fully, completely yourself. And if you can't be that in your current relationship, it might be time to walk away. Number 2. You're always the one making sacrifices. Relationships are supposed to be about balance, about give and take. But what happens when you're the only one giving? What happens when every compromise, every adjustment, every sacrifice seems to come from your side, while your partner coasts through, barely lifting a finger to meet you halfway? It might feel like love at first, like you're just doing your part to keep things running smoothly. But over time, the weight of one-sided sacrifices starts to build, and it slowly chips away at your sense of self. Maybe it started with small things, canceling plans with your friends because your partner didn't feel like going out, adjusting your schedule to accommodate theirs, letting go of hobbies you loved because they never showed interest. You told yourself it was normal, that relationships require effort, that love means making adjustments. And sure, relationships do require effort, but when that effort is only coming from you, it stops being love and starts becoming emotional labor. And emotional labor is exhausting. You begin to feel like you're carrying the entire relationship on your back, while your partner reaps the benefits without even noticing the weight you bear. You start wondering why they don't make the same level of sacrifices for you. Why don't they rearrange their schedule when you need them to? Why don't they compromise on things that matter to you? Why does it feel like your needs are always secondary? At first you might excuse it. Maybe they're just used to things being a certain way. Maybe they don't realize how much you're giving up. Maybe they love you, but just express it differently. You convince yourself that as long as the relationship is still standing, everything is okay. But deep down, you know it's not. Because love isn't supposed to feel this one-sided. Over time, resentment starts creeping in. You begin to notice all the ways you've bent yourself to fit into their world, while they've remained comfortably the same. You've given up pieces of yourself, your time, your energy, sometimes even your dreams, to accommodate them. And what have they given up for you? If the answer is not much, then you're not in a partnership. You're in a performance where you play the role of the devoted giver, and they play the role of the passive receiver. Sacrifice in a relationship should never be a solo act. When love is real and mutual, both partners step up when needed. Both partners recognize each other's needs and make adjustments. It's not about keeping score, it's about mutual respect. But if your sacrifices go unnoticed, unappreciated, or worse, expected, then what you're dealing with isn't love. It's an imbalance that will eventually drain you. And the worst part? The longer you stay in a relationship like this, the harder it becomes to leave. You get used to neglecting your own needs. You convince yourself that asking for more is selfish. You become so accustomed to sacrificing that you forget what it feels like to be prioritized. And that's dangerous, because love should never make you feel like you have to disappear to make someone else happy. So, ask yourself, when was the last time your partner sacrificed for you? When was the last time they changed their plans to accommodate yours? When was the last time they put your needs first without you having to ask? If you're struggling to come up with an answer, then maybe it's time to stop sacrificing and start valuing yourself instead. Number 3, they don't support your goals and dreams. Being in a relationship should feel like having a teammate, someone who stands beside you, pushes you forward, and believes in you, even when you doubt yourself. But what happens when the person you're dating doesn't support your goals and dreams? What if, instead of being your biggest cheerleader, they become your biggest obstacle? At first, it might not seem like a big deal. Maybe you mention a new idea, a career change, or a dream you've had since childhood, and they just shrug it off. Maybe they change the subject or say something like, "That sounds cool," with zero enthusiasm. You tell yourself, well, not everyone has to be as excited as I am. But deep down, something feels off. You start to notice that every time you bring up your aspirations, they either dismiss them, downplay their importance, or, worse, make you feel silly for even trying. And that's where the problem begins. Because love isn't just about spending time together or sharing laughs. It's about wanting to see each other thrive. If you have to fight for their encouragement, if you feel like your dreams are a burden to them, you have to ask yourself, is this really the right person for me? Support isn't always loud and obvious. It's not just about grand gestures or motivational speeches. Sometimes it's just a simple, "I believe in you," a text that says, "You got this," a willingness to listen, to ask questions, to help you brainstorm when you feel stuck. But if the person you're with doesn't even offer that, if they roll their eyes when you talk about your future, if they constantly doubt your abilities, or if they make you feel like your ambitions are unrealistic, then you're dating someone who doesn't truly see you. Because your dreams are a part of who you are, and if they don't respect that, they don't respect you. Maybe they tell you they're just being realistic, that they don't want you to get your hopes up, that they're trying to protect you from disappointment. But let's be honest, there's a huge difference between constructive honesty and discouragement. Someone who genuinely cares about you won't mock your dreams or try to shrink them down to a safer version. Instead, they'll help you build a plan. They'll push you to be better. They'll challenge you in a way that makes you grow, not in a way that makes you feel small. And then there's the subtle sabotage, the times when you mention wanting to take a class, start a business, or go back to school, and they suddenly make you feel guilty about it. But won't that take up too much time? Aren't you already busy enough? I just feel like you're focusing on the wrong things. They might not come right out and say, "I don't want you to succeed," but their actions speak louder than words. They don't want you to evolve, because if you do, they're afraid you might outgrow them. That's the real reason some partners don't support your dreams. It's not about protecting you from failure. It's about protecting themselves from feeling left behind. Maybe they don't have ambitions of their own. Maybe they're insecure about their own path, and instead of rising with you, they try to hold you down. But here's the truth. The right person will never be intimidated by your success. They won't see your growth as a threat to the relationship. They'll be proud of you. They'll be inspired by you, and they'll want to grow alongside you. If you feel like you have to hide your aspirations or water down your dreams just to keep the peace in your relationship, that's a huge red flag. Because love should never require you to play small. You deserve someone who looks at your passion and says, "How can I help?" Someone who sees your potential and says, "I can't wait to watch you make this happen." Someone who celebrates your victories, no matter how big or small, instead of acting like they don't matter. At the end of the day, your dreams aren't just about success or achievement. They're about fulfillment. They're about becoming the person you're meant to be. And the right partner will want that for you just as much as you want it for yourself. So if you're with someone who doesn't support your goals and dreams, ask yourself, is this really love, or is it just comfort? Because real love doesn't hold you back, it pushes you forward, and you deserve nothing less. Number 4. The relationship feels more like a burden than a blessing. When you're in a relationship, it should feel like a partnership, a place where you grow, feel supported, and share joy. But what happens when that relationship starts to feel more like a weight you're carrying rather than a gift you're receiving? You might find yourself dreading the time you spend together, or worse, feeling emotionally drained after every interaction. If you're constantly wondering whether this relationship is worth it, and it feels more like a task than a blessing, it's time to pay attention to these feelings. This can be a major red flag that you're dating the wrong person. The initial excitement of being with someone can often mask the underlying issues. However, over time, the weight of these unresolved problems starts to surface, and that's when the relationship starts to feel like a burden. A healthy relationship should feel like something that lifts you up, not something that constantly drags you down. When you begin to feel exhausted, mentally and emotionally, by the constant effort it takes to keep things afloat, it's an indication that your energy is being drained without receiving the same level of effort and energy in return. What's even worse is when the person you're dating doesn't seem to notice or care about how their behavior impacts you. A relationship that feels like a burden often comes with emotional imbalance. It's not just about one person doing all the giving while the other does all the taking. It's also about the emotional weight of constantly managing your partner's problems, dealing with their mood swings, or feeling like you have to adjust your life around their needs without any reciprocity. It's exhausting, and eventually the emotional toll can start to affect your self-esteem, your mental health, and your outlook on the future. A relationship that feels like a burden is also marked by a constant sense of dread or apprehension. You might find yourself making excuses to avoid spending time together or putting off difficult conversations because you don't want to deal with the emotional fallout. Every time you try to communicate how you're feeling, your partner might dismiss your concerns or become defensive, making you feel guilty for bringing it up. This cycle of avoidance and emotional exhaustion is a sure sign that the relationship isn't providing the support or care you need to thrive. This kind of relationship also impacts your sense of personal growth. Instead of feeling encouraged to pursue your passions or goals, you may find yourself giving up on things you once loved just to keep the peace or to avoid conflict. When you're not growing as a person, and instead you're feeling weighed down by someone else's issues, it creates an unhealthy dynamic. The person you're with should encourage you to be your best self, not hold you back from becoming who you truly are. Another key factor to consider is the feeling of being stuck. A healthy relationship allows both partners to feel free and empowered to be themselves, while also growing together. But when you're in a relationship that feels like a burden, you might feel like you're stuck in a cycle of constant dissatisfaction, unsure of how to move forward. The future may start to feel unclear, and the excitement of building a life together fades into a sense of dread and obligation. In a relationship, both people should feel valued, cared for, and supported. When the relationship starts to feel like a burden, it often means that one person is carrying the emotional labor of the relationship while the other person is passive or indifferent. It's important to recognize this pattern early, because it's only going to become harder to change as time goes on. You're not meant to feel like you're in a never-ending struggle to keep the relationship afloat. Healthy relationships are a source of joy, not stress. If you're in a relationship that feels like this, it's essential to take a step back and assess whether it's truly the right relationship for you. You deserve a partner who makes you feel lighter, not heavier. It might not be easy to face the reality that things aren't working, but it's crucial to prioritize your emotional well-being. When you begin to feel like you're carrying a weight that's too heavy to bear, remember that you deserve a relationship that makes you feel supported, loved, and valued. Number 5. You can't picture a future with them, or you can, and it's not pretty. However, if you can't picture a future with the person you're dating, or worse, if the future you imagine is bleak, it's a massive red flag. Imagine trying to plan a vacation with them, and you can't even envision what your life together would look like. Maybe you don't see them in your long-term plans, or maybe you see them and feel a sense of dread instead of excitement. It's a clear sign that something's off. We all want to build something lasting, something that goes beyond just the now and survives through life's inevitable changes. If you can't picture your partner standing by your side in the future, whether it's for big milestones like your wedding day or for simple, everyday moments like Sunday mornings with coffee, you might be facing the harsh reality that this relationship isn't meant to last. Relationships are all about envisioning a shared future, and if you're stuck in the present moment, unsure of where you two will be down the road, it can leave you feeling disconnected and anxious. But what about when you can picture a future with them, but it's not a future you want? That's an even more difficult and telling situation. You might imagine getting married, having kids, or living together, but the thought of it fills you with discomfort. Maybe it's because their flaws or the toxic patterns in the relationship make it hard to imagine a peaceful, fulfilling life together. You might start thinking about a future that's full of arguments, unfulfilled dreams, or even just boredom. That future feels grim, like a road that's leading to nowhere good. If the thought of a future with your partner doesn't fill you with hope or excitement, but instead with anxiety, disappointment, or dread, it's a warning sign that this relationship might not be worth investing in. The truth is, relationships are built on mutual growth and shared visions. They should inspire both partners to dream about a life together, one that's fulfilling, exciting, and full of possibility. If you find yourself imagining a future without them in it, or if that future feels like a cage rather than an adventure, then it's time to reevaluate. Holding on to a relationship out of habit, fear of being alone, or just because it's comfortable is not enough to build a meaningful future. It's not easy to let go of someone you've invested time and emotion into, but recognizing when you can't picture a future with them is the first step toward making a healthier, happier decision for both of you. Sometimes, the hardest part is admitting to yourself that this relationship, while meaningful in the moment, doesn't have the foundation to grow into the future you want. And that's okay. Not every relationship is meant to last forever, and the sooner you come to terms with this, the sooner you can start imagining a future where you're truly happy, whether that's with someone else or with yourself. So if you can't picture a future with them, or if the picture you do have is anything less than beautiful, it might just be time to let go. So let's recap real quick. If you can't be yourself around them, if you're the only one making sacrifices, if they don't support your goals, if the relationship feels like a burden, if you can't picture a future with them, then, my friend, you might be dating the wrong person. And look, I get it. Breakups are scary. No one wants to feel alone. But trust me, being single is 1,000,000 times better than being stuck in a relationship that drains you. You deserve love that feels right, not forced. So, if any of these signs hit home, it might be time to have an honest conversation with yourself. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever dated the wrong person? What was the biggest red flag you ignored? Drop your stories in the comments. I read all of them. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on future relationship advice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe our channel, and I'll see you in the next one.